Well, let's turn up the heat and get into this because I'm really excited to talk with the two of you. Always talking with fellow super fans is a fantastic experience. So I'm really intrigued. For anybody who wants to sort of make that transition, sort of off the couch of the one bedroom apartment into Mexico for that very hot day. What was the process like of you wanting to get onto the Amazing Race? How many times did you apply, and what gave you that initiative in the first place to be like, we love watching it, let's race it now?
We have been super fans for about 20 years. We used to watch with Mary's mom.
Yeah.
Mary kept saying, "Hey, Daddy, Daddy, they're doing, the interviews. I mean, the application window is closing. Do you want to submit?" And finally I said, "Yeah, let's do it." We sat on our little couch
Right
in our
there.
little apartment and we just shot the breeze with each other for a few minutes. We sent it in. We were kind of joking with each other, saying, "Hey, did Hollywood call you? I missed the call. Oh, did they call you?" And then about a week later,
We actually
Hollywood called and said, "Hey, we've been trying to call you."
And it's funny too, because my mom was like the real first super fan like years ago. And we had never thought about really applying. Like it was never something that we thought that we would do. And then I think, I don't know, something sparked it in me. I was like, let's just apply. And it was so funny because the day that we submit our application would have been my mom and dad's 15th wedding anniversary.
So we
So
think
Wow.
maybe she's there helping
yeah,
us
I
out,
don't know if it was like a call from my mom where she's like, just do it. Like, this is the time and whatever. So yeah, it's not like we had planned for years and we just applied once and
one
got
time,
lucky.
and
So
it was we got the call probably mid-August or so, so we did not have a lot of time
yeah.
to prepare. Uh, I don't want to jump ahead, but I will tell you, I'm pretty amused by my falling at the beginning of the race and being out of breath. I have no problems making fun of myself. I did do some strength training. I did not get as much cardio as I would have liked, and it's a lot harder than it looks on TV.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about that because obviously it's compounding in this just massive two-leg day for you. By the end of it, by the time you leave this roadblock in last place, of course, you know more than anyone, it's the Amazing Race. Anything can happen. But by the time you check in with Phil, how sure are you that you're going to be the one eliminated?
We had actually on the way to the pit stop cut off the dream team in traffic, and the way that it was going, it was like a one-way street, and I was like 99.9% sure that there was no way that they were going to beat us there. So when we were running to fill on the mat, it was like tunnel vision, like it was like in a dream. There's people on the sidelines. I'm like, we're running to fill on the mat right now, and we're pretty sure that we're not out at this point. And so we like sprint full force. I think you actually sprinted despite
Yeah,
being
I got
tired.
my old man energy popped out. So,
And
but we had a really funny thing too in traffic. Jockeying with Amber and Vinny. At one point, they don't show it, but Mary sort of accidentally cuts them off, and she kind of waves. So that's how we do it in Boston. Thank
yeah,
you.
like cut them off and then say thank you. But yeah, we had like cut right in front of them just by total chance. And we were like, holy crap, like we're
So
still
then
in
we
this.
get to the pit stop, and she had her sombrero from
Mm.
the rodeo, and I was thinking, I don't want her to be eliminated for not
Yeah.
taking that hat with us because I wasn't sure, so we grabbed the hat. Turns out we really didn't need it, but I didn't want to take any chances with
Yeah.
that.
That's interesting. So, how much do you think running these legs back to back had an impact on everything? I mean, we just see how exhausted you were by the end of it. We'll certainly get into like that moment with you, Chris. But do you think like if there was an authentic stop down like usual with the Amazing Race between legs, you would have done a better job in leg two?
I think
Definitely think
so. I think
so.
we had gassed ourselves out in the first leg because we didn't, our directions were way off. And then by the time we got to the second leg, we're like, we need to get our shit together with directions. And we did not miss a turn on that second leg. And so I think if we had had time to catch our breath and be like, next time we need to really get our directions in order because we had wasted so many steps and it was so hilly that I think the second leg we had really gotten our directions in check. And if we had like lasted that leg, I think we would have been better because we may not be the fastest or most cardio, but I think in this race, it's all about directions and being efficient. And so when you're watching the show, you're like, okay, this is an hour and it's go, go, go. But you don't realize how much time is spent on the race until you're there. And so you feel like you constantly have to be like running and moving and going quickly and making quick decisions. And you see with some of the teams, like the best option is to like take a breather, reassess, like find out the best route. And so, yeah, I was proud of us that second leg, even though we got out, that we had gotten our directions much better.
The process is so different outside of what you see on the cameras. And we had, there's quite a bit of downtime that you don't see. We're in a hotel room.
Mhm.
So this would be the one time that we reached Phil, and I was like, thank God we're going back to the hotel. And he says, no, you're going to keep on racing. And I was like,
Mhm.
I was tired. And we had a small break, got ourselves together a little bit, but we were so dehydrated
Yeah.
that day. It was rough.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that because we got a glimpse, obviously, and it's tough to sort of showcase exactly what you were undergoing, Chris. So I'd love for you to describe to me, like, what was going on in that moment? How scared were you that like this might be actually where your race ends?
No, well, we had a very long day. We had been running up and down the beach for practice. We had been sprinting. So by the time we took off, had done a lot of sprinting. I
Mhm.
was already a little bit gassed just going to the car. Then we did manage it. I knew we weren't in last place when we found Phil at the mat. So I was actually just really looking forward to a little break that afternoon, and we did not get it. I mean, thrilled to be racing, but I was like, we could use a little break at
Well,
that point.
and in the second, like you don't see it, but his leg had cramped up. So we're going up the bridge after the balloons. And
That's
it was like slow motion. He's like, ah. And
we
I turn around and I'm like, are you
Well, we
joking?
had spent so much time with the flags and the balloons and running back and forth, and I just was completely dehydrated. My
Yeah.
legs,
I know. And so you see me like mixing the water and like I had some
Mhm.
electrolytes, and that's when we like sit and pause.
she saved me.
And for me, like I asked him, I'm like, do you need a medic? Because I was like,
Yeah.
my concern is my dad's health, and I think a
I,
lot of people are
I
like, Mary's so like easy on her dad. And I'm like, I don't want to get pulled out of a medical reason. I want to not quit. And he says that he goes, I'm not quitting.
Well,
Like
like
I'm
you
pushing
said,
through.
I was scared at that point. Like I
Yeah.
may not be able to continue. I just needed about 5 minutes, and I
Yeah.
was able to. But I did not want to be pulled out of the race.
Or quit.
Even if we were last place, I wanted to make it to the next pit stop to see Phil.
Well, you mentioned this before. I mean, first leg, you were one of many teams, to be fair, to have difficulties with navigating, in particular for you getting to those horses to the point where you get blocked out. I mean, talk me through that process. And as super fans, how surprised were you by those struggles?
It's like I said, it's like you're moving so quickly, and we had asked directions a lot, and it was kind of like they would give us like two blocks of information, and then we'd have to like ask again, and we just
Mm.
got really turned around. And then when we got to those damn horses and there were none left, I am a very nice person, like intrinsically. And so when Juan and Shane, my first instinct was like, we're at the back of the pack. These guys who are Air Force pilots who navigate for a living are also lost, but they're a physically strong team. And so my hope in that moment was like, let me give them a little inkling of help. And this could be an alliance that helps us down the road. And then again, they don't show it, but when we got to the wrestling match, they were like, hey, this is what's going on.
Right.
Like, you're
So
going to have to match. And so they did have
we
our
did
back.
catch up to them. We caught up to them at the wrestlers, even with our little mishap there.
Yeah.
So
But I
we
have to give credit to Juan and Shane that they did help us back. And so that was for me, I'm like, again, we may not be the strongest or the fastest, but going into this, I was like, I want to build on the relationships that we can have. And if I can give somebody some help, that they can help us back. And they did. So, it helped a little bit. And, they ended up flying through the lasso anyway. So it didn't really matter much. But
Yeah, and then at the lasso, Vinny and Amber came and blew
yeah.
by us, and we still ended up beating them to the pit stop, which we were.
Yeah, I'm intrigued about that because, like, to your point, making not even alliances, like working together with teams, certainly something that we've seen even on this season so far. Did you debate doing that with any other teams as you were racing along, even like an Amber and Vinny of like, hey, we're
We,
both in the back, let's avoid it, or was it just every man
we
for themselves when leg two hit?
every man for themselves,
Yeah.
and at that point, and you'll see it too. I mean, we're referring to the twins as, hey, the Surfer Boys, and people are calling us the dad and daughter. We didn't
Yeah.
really know each other that well, and as it went on, you start to know who's who, and
I think the other teams, and you see them, like there's XNFL, there's, FBI, and like they're so physically strong that I think even if we'd aligned, like there's no way we would have been able to keep up on foot with them to like stay with them the whole time.
I think we might have made one more pit stop, but the competition was tough.
Yeah.
I'm about twice as old as most of the people on the show, and uh, I'm still just so proud of how we did and be doing it with Mary, and just it was a blast. You wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, the last thing I want to ask is actually about that. I would love for each of you now, listen, you are such an intrinsic part of each other's lives for so long, between being roommates and obviously being father and daughter. What's the thing you learn the most about the other person throughout your whirlwind day in Mexico? Chris, let's start with you.
The most I learned, well, I already knew this, but Mary is just the sweetest thing. Sometimes too good for herself. I'm a little bit on the meaner side. Oh my God, why did you tell those guys? But as a pair, we offset each other, and I just would not want her any different than she is. She's my better half, my favorite daughter, well, my only daughter. But I just, we're so used to living in I mean, just another thing we want to clear up is, although we have a one-bedroom apartment, we have made the living room into a separate, I mean, we do have a separate bedroom.
We don't
I'm sure you got comments, yeah, in response to that.
have bunk beds, as I've seen people say.
So we live in tight quarters, but we do have space, so we are able to like give each other the
Yeah.
space. But it was we were tight being with each other on the race, and it was just a fantastic experience. I just learned that she's a great partner to have.
I think
Aw.
what I learned about my dad is I like have looked to him as my rock and as like the know-all of everything. And I think it's like I learned that, my dad is also experiencing life for the first time and has this curiosity that like, I think even in your like weak moments, I think you never quit. And so that I think is inspiring to me that, my dad's lived on his own since he was 18 years old. Like his life has not been easy either. And so for him to kind of persevere and take on the role of mom and dad and like he did everything for me. Like I never felt like I was missing out as a kid where, we may have not had money to do things, but he always like figured out a way and like would take me to Justin Bieber. And I know that like it wasn't easy. Yeah, he makes
Yeah,
it
I've seen
seem
Justin
easy.
Bieber 5 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think I realize how much inner strength my dad has where he like makes it seem like everything is easy to do and he's got it all together. And I know that he really tries
Mary,
hard.
and Mary, she very caring daughter, as you see on the show. She just, I couldn't ask for a better daughter to be so good to me on the show and compare. I mean, this was quite honestly, like this was a dream for me. It's a double dream for Mary, and although I think we made a great team, ultimately I'd like Mary to get a redemption season where she could do it with somebody closer to her age. I would just love that. I think Mary deserves a chance to shine, and she's physically fit and a lot better than me. And I think I think you hopefully haven't seen the last of Mary. That's what my hope is.
All
So
right, there we go. Manifesting a Mary Justin Bieber matchup for
Yeah.
next
Yeah,
season.
that would be the dream.
or maybe Mary and Anna Lay.
And like, yeah.